I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see this. That's not what I wanted to share.
Looks like somebody's having a party.
Yeah, that was the
now
layout.
You have to invite us all
for RPS. So you're invited. You're definitely invited.
Okay.
Okay, that's the one. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, very good. So the session today is really just going to take some time and make an inventory of what we perceive are the tools in our sales tool bag. And why do we want to do that? And I think the answer to this is something we touched upon last month in Greensboro, which was that as salespeople, and that includes managers, you should be intentional about what you're doing anytime you have a dialogue or a discussion with a customer or a prospect. And so having an inventory of your tools allows you to go through that inventory and assess which tool you may want to use in any given conversation with a customer or prospect. And it's that intentionality that gives you some additional opportunities for success, is assessing who you're going to talk to, looking at the tools you have in your tool bag, and trying to pick the right tool for that person for that conversation. So what I wanted to do at this point is just roundtable as many tools that we can list that are part of our trade. So anybody who wants to shout out something, I'm going to record it and we'll make a list and I'll share the list at some later point. But anybody have any ideas about what some of the tools in our tool bag are?
Inside staff.
Inside staff. Absolutely. What else?
EC purchasing.
EC purchasing, yeah. That's a good one.
I think this might be specific to the Charlotte office, barrister's title, but we have multiple underwriters. Multiple, Fidelity, First American, DOMA.
Multiple carriers, yeah. That is
Carriers, thank
something
you.
in your toolbox for sure.
Yep.
Title tracks.
Title tracks, yes.
SoftPro.
SoftPro. What else?
CLE.
CLEs?
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially those on-demand free ones.
What else?
For me, referrals for commercial searches.
Yep.
Prior
Most
policy
of us-
data. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say most of our offices have in-house counsel, so counsel that are in the office.
Yes.
Instead of like a state counsel or someone else, they have to call at another underwriter or carrier.
Agreed. And to add on to that, what about those offices like maybe Denise's or Teresa that don't have in-house counsel? What do they have?
State counsel.
They have state counsel, right? They have Jim and Margaret, who are awesome.
When we list title tracks, is that our prior policy database? Is that, or is that different?
I would say I would say it's different because I think of title tracks as being sort of the answer to eFlight, right? So you can submit things electronically. I would put prior policies in a separate category.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That is definitely a strength. What else? Anybody else got anything?
I want to say it's like smaller, but I mean, people love our pens and highlighters and pads of paper, like our quality marketing material.
Marketing materials for sure.
And along those lines, I guess the socials, the outreach, the fun that we have, the big events, the big RPS.
Yeah, like the Fidelity Connect events and the baseball games, steeplechase. So yeah, that's definitely Julie, agreed.
Are we
Oh.
including the tools that you've taught us, the books and resources, that knowledge, or is that a different kind of tool?
Yeah, I'm looking more for things that we would say to customers. That's kind of the category. Those are definitely tools, but they're more like skills versus tools.
Gotcha.
Well, I was going to say, and this is kind of broad, but the knowledge about the company, I've had more folks ask me about Fidelity as a whole lately.
Yeah, I agree, Kathy. I think that particularly with particular customers, bringing out the fact that Fidelity has market share, Fidelity has reserves, Fidelity has a, you know, something solid behind its name can be useful. Just depends on who you're talking to, but totally agree.
We have State Escrow Council in Sharon, and so being able to offer escrow services to our commercial customers is something that can set us apart.
Absolutely, Jack. That is a very good one. Escrow services and the great job that Sharon does. That I didn't have that available to me when I was an agent, but that would have been one of the first things I would have talked to with a commercial prospect about what we could do for them. In fact, we lost business, potential business, because we didn't have that capability.
Hey, Christine, I'm going to circle back to a question you asked just a minute ago on title tracks. It's a whole lot more than eFlight. It is a prior policy database, which is constantly updated and reaches into the corporate title point database. And that is a tool. It's in the right markets. It becomes a very valuable tool to our local customers as well. And it can be given to our attorneys for prior policy lookups. In those markets where we have a dominant market share, and we do have that in a few markets, it becomes really important. Instead of them going out and looking, asking 4 or 5 competitors in the marketplace, they may start with title tracks just to see if there are, we've got the prior policies, because there's a pretty significant likelihood that they might. And it is being constantly updated. Everything that comes out of SoftPro Select for both Chicago and Fidelity's going into it. The agency policies are going into it. And in the near future, we're crawling along at a corporate glacial pace, but the barristers' prior policies, all of the barristers' prior policies will be in there as well. So it's a lot more than eFlight. It is. There are attorneys that like that aspect of it, but it's definitely a large prior policy database as well. So
I mean, that's how I always understood it to be when we were an agency. And so that's why I associate it with very much like a prior policy database. But yeah, all those additional services are newer to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Honestly, we built it a long time ago, but the application submission thing is used by a number. I don't have a percentage right off, but there are attorneys out there that like filling out their prelims in title tracks and submitting them via title tracks. And when they do that, it gives them a landing page where they see all of their submissions. So. And no, we don't let them submit to other companies. If they want to use that aspect of it, they got to come to us.
Nice.
Yeah. So, sorry, didn't mean to derail it. I had some audio problems there for a minute and had to get sideways. So,
How about anything else? You sales reps are out in the field every day and not always bringing some sort of treat, but often are. Would we consider those marketing tools in our tool bag?
Sure.
Yes.
I don't know if this is on, I don't think it is listed, but you know, getting attorneys or paralegals outside the office for meals, breakfast or lunch, or even coffee, I think is another tool in our toolbox, because I feel like more often than not, that's when we really lay a foundation with folks. We build, you know, a relationship in addition to being able to talk about business, but just getting to know somebody. I think that's a super duper tool. Not only with salespeople, but with attorneys like, you know, Natasha and Sarah. So it's super helpful when I connect an attorney with Sarah, an attorney with Natasha. Because they've most likely been emailing with them, you know, previously, but they haven't had a personal interaction, you know, in-person interaction.
Yeah, I wanted, at some point, I'll spend some time on relationships, particularly salespeople relationships, because I do think that that is a tool. And then are you, Christine, since you mentioned it, are you okay with me just lumping it together with treats,
Yeah, yeah.
meals and treats, and then having a separate line item for relationships?
Sure.
Okay, what else? Anybody got anything else that they do that they want to add to the list?
I think we have wonderful office staff, underwriters. Some of our offices have underwriters with 100+ years in their offices altogether. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I think being able to offer that kind of service is huge.
Yeah, and you just said it there in the last sentence. Having staff is probably not a tool, but having staff that provides wonderful service, that is something that you all talk about out in the field. And you know how that relates to getting priors back quickly, finding priors, getting commitments back quickly that are also accurate, getting revisions done quickly and accurately. That all relates to that inside staff and the service that they provide. So definitely service has got to be one of the top things that we talk about when we're out in the field. So thank you for that, Sherry. What else? Anybody have any? Newsletters. Yes. Newsletters, because they can be informative, and that's what I want to talk about at some point. Information and how we can use that as a marketing tool. What else? Anybody got anything else they want to add to the list?
Would that
Yeah.
tie in like our Facebook and our Quill and stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if there's anybody who is using Facebook effectively. Please let me know. I know that we do have newsletters. Multiple offices have newsletters, and I see that as a good way to interact with customers. I'm not as confident that Facebook provides the same opportunities, but if I'm wrong about that, please somebody let me know.
No, I was just thinking, like, when you said newsletters, like sometimes we have like, I don't know if you met the Quill was the same way as like what we send out separately or not, like informational stuff like the EC purchasing and all. And then the Facebook I use to like thank the customers if like Brady Kosofsky just had a 15-year anniversary. So like I'm asking somewhere to post that on our Facebook. So I was kind of seeing like all that tied together, I guess.
Information, I think, is one we can add here, Kiera, providing information, whether it's in the newsletter or otherwise. What else? Anybody got anything else we can add to this list?
What about recognizing birthdays, special events, and customers?
Recognition? Yeah, I think so. For those of you that are doing newsletters right now, one of the things that one of the blocks you can have in your newsletter is an all-star feature. And what you can do with an all-star feature in a newsletter is highlight some really great behavior that a customer is doing, which does a couple of things. One, it makes the customer feel really great that you're highlighting them and recognizing them as an all-star, but it's also letting the rest of your customers know that there's this practice that this person is engaging in that is really good and that you want to encourage. And so you kind of using, you're using something that creates two opportunities for you, one with the customer and one with everybody else. What else?
Could we by chance use that all-star feature if we use it to highlight a customer who says, I'm not going to anyone else because y'all are easy to work with? We had a customer tell us that at lunch last week. Here, remember Susie?
Yep. Of course I remember. I'll never forget. It was a good day.
Yeah, I think a
I'd have to think about
testimonial
that.
is great.
Yeah,
We've
as a
done it once or
testimonial.
twice, but we should definitely utilize that more if we have that. So if you ever get that feedback, feel free to send it to me and I will work it in to your newsletters for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure we would call that person an all-star because they like us, but definitely a testimonial is always fantastic to use. What else? Anybody got anything else?
So we have like CLEs up there, but I think when I was a practicing attorney about a bazillion years ago, what drew me close to Fidelity was just the generalized training from Teresa that, you know, she could show me how to make my file balance in SoftPro. Just the not day-to-day knowledge of how to make your practice better is helpful.
Yeah, training is a great one, Darcy. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that one because that's one I wanted to talk about. Okay, anybody else got any others you want to add to the list? Things that you're doing out in the field that you feel are part of your toolbox? All right, well, I'm gonna move on then. And this is a great list. I'm gonna create this list and send it to everybody. I came up with a list and you all came up with more things on your list than my list. And I tried to aggregate these somewhat into groupings. And the first one I came up with was underwriter support. This is an important tool in our toolbox because attorneys and paralegals have questions and they need to talk to somebody about some of the things that they're seeing. And this is a terrific service that we offer. As I think Natasha mentioned, we have in-house counsel. Natasha, Jack, and Amy are in-house counsel and managers. We have Laura in Raleigh. We have Sarah in Charlotte, who are also counsel there in the branches. And let me ask Christine, if you don't mind, because I know that this is something you talk about a lot in the field. Who do you use this tool with? And how does it sound?
That we have underwriting counsel on staff.
Yes.
I mean, right now I'm talking about it. I mean, I think this is an easy, I try to encourage attorneys and paralegals, it doesn't land on so much, but attorneys, like, you know, when they start telling me about how all of their referral sources have affiliated relationships with with their own title insurance companies or joint ventures with other random title insurance companies, I ask them, like, you know, an easy way to and I have relationships, longstanding relationship with a lot of these people, so I can be a little bit more like aggressive and direct, but I'm like, an easy way to tell these folks to hit the road. Do they have counsel on staff? Do they have somebody that you can call on their staff that's an attorney that can answer your question? And if they don't, you know, if it were me, I'd be like, see you guys later. Like, thanks. When you get somebody on staff, come back and maybe we can talk, you know, because a lot of these newer title insurance companies, smaller affiliated folks, don't have attorneys on staff. They are
Okay, so good, that's-
calling Jim and Margaret. They're calling the state council for whomever their carrier is. And it's just another phone call. You know, it's going to add to that turnaround time. It's going to add to the time that they're going to be able to answer that question for you. You know, so, and I'm like, we got two, you know, I mean, for our office in particular, before you get to state council. So
the who sounds like for you that not necessarily always, but most of the time attorneys. The when can be not always, but can be when you're having to have this conversation about joint ventures. How about the what? So when you're talking about Sarah and Natasha specifically, what are you saying about them?
Well, yeah, first of all, that Natasha's been with the company for over 15 years in all different capacities, you know, claims and all, you know, she's seen a lot of different parts of the process. Sarah is a North Carolina, South Carolina approved attorney who's been on both sides of the table. She's sat at the closing table. She's also been on the title side. And there, you know, there's always somebody, you know, available, looking at their email. If one is out of the office, the other's always on. And then they get back to you, you know, as fast as they possibly can, unless they need to, you know, take something up to state council.
Kathy, do you talk about Jack when you're out in the field?
Ooh.
Kathy, you're muted.
I'm muted. Is that better?
Yes.
I didn't want you all hear me coughing. Tell people, and actually he went out with me yesterday to meet a new attorney that we're hoping to get some work from, but the fact that he was out in private practice for many years, the fact that he has had other experience at another title company, that he sees from their perspective, but he sees from the title company perspective as well. And he's here, he's available to, you know, to call at any time, and there too before they have to go to state council. So that he is available. And to Christine's point, it's great that we've got the support here with our attorneys, rather than having to find somebody.
And Michelle, you don't have in-house counsel. When you're on the field, do you talk about Jim and Margaret at all?
Yes, sometimes I tell them that we have, you know, not in-house counsel, but we have state counsel. And most time, sometimes I send actually the links, like their phone numbers and emails, if they're new attorneys. All my other customers have stuff.
Okay.
Michelle, you bring up a really good point that I want to backfill a little bit on technology. You said you give them their number, their direct dial numbers. I believe, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but Barristers is on the corporate phone system now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. Sorry. It's absolutely pouring rain in downtown Greensboro now. You can transfer. I mean, you could have them call your office and you can transfer to Jim's extension, Margaret's extension, anybody's extension. So, or you can conference them in if you don't want to send them off and hope that the recipient's there, or the receiving party's there. You can conference them in as well. So technology becomes a way of leveraging those assets that are available to you around the state. So.
And last point about counsel before I move on, we do have multiple counsel around the state. So if for some reason Jim and Margaret were not available, Natasha, Jack, Amy are all available to help out with another branch. And Ken. But not me. The second grouping I came up with.
Either per Ken.
What was that?
I said not Ken either per Ken.
No, I'm still fielding calls on a daily basis. So.
The second grouping I came up with was related to service, the point that Sherry made. So we have great people inside who are looking up policies, who are producing commitments, getting them out the door quickly and accurately, answering questions. Both our inside staff and our attorneys are answering questions. So this is big part of what I expect we're talking about out in the field. And so I'm going to pick on you, Kira. Kira, when you're out in the field, do you talk about these service things that come out of your operation?
Of course. And a big thing I've done this year is I've tried to organize each month on my topic that I'd like to talk about. So EC purchasing was one of them, for example. And then our services as far as like inside staff, and we now have extended hours too, which has been a big thing that I've kind of let the customers know to be able to have access. But of course, always let know about our services and the quality and making sure there's no mistakes compared to what other companies may have.
And is there anybody in particular that when you talk about these things that that you're choosing to talk with them about? So that was probably a poorly worded question, but when you're having this conversation, what type of customers or prospects are you having this conversation with?
Like, are you asking if they're asking for like better, like if they currently have service and they're not interested? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what I'm trying to get at is, do you typically do this with newer customers or prospects?
Oh, I see. Well, I would kind of do both. Like, you always want to reiterate whenever you have your current customers too, but new customers, you always want to, you're trying to get them to want your service. So you're going to talk about all the stuff that you're good at, but I also do it to like the current customers as well. Like even the ones I've had for a while, you have to reiterate it. I feel like it's a constant conversation with anybody for me.
That's fair. How about prior policies? Christine, I know that you talk about prior policies a lot when you're out in the field. What does that sound like, and who are you having that conversation with?
I feel like the prior policy conversation has changed in the last few years, at least for me. To have 2 or 3 customer care team members solely dedicated to looking at prior policies, it was a new and novel thing initially, but the companies that are our competition, not necessarily the affiliated companies, but like Tryon Title, Moorhead, Masters, they're all doing that now, and granted, we may not all have the same access. But I still mention it, and it especially comes up when I talk to somebody that we're sending a lot of priors to, and we're not getting a lot of business from. I mention it in the way of like, hey, we have 2 or 3 people that all they do is look for prior policies. Like, honestly, I'm almost having the reverse conversation. It's like, if you guys know that you're gonna this referral source is making you use XYZ company, like it's probably in your best interest, in your abstractor's best interest, to ask that company for the prior, and not barristers, because it's become like everybody is offering it. Unfortunately, they've caught on to to it. So and then, in the positive, it's like, hey, thank you. It's a great talking point for folks. Like, I've had for example, this month, there's a handful of customers that I have no orders from, and it's probably not because they don't want to do business with barristers. It's because they're slow. But I think it's a great talking point to say, hey, thank you guys for allowing us to help you find prior policies for your customers. I've noticed we were able to find a handful, and that is awesome. And I know it's, not the best market, but it is picking up. So maybe those are going to turn into orders, in the next month or 2, and we would love that. And, but it's in a vein of gratitude and thankfulness that we're even getting requests from them to look for prior policies. So.
Yeah, and in my experience, sometimes just saying that will get you an order. Just saying, hey, we're so happy we found 12 priors for you this month, and not even having to say any more than that will get you an order, because they'll sort of read between the lines.
Yeah. Or it's
Cindy-
simply a matter of being front of mind for them. I mean, you sent them it's just like, oh, there's just seeing an email from, and it's also, to your point, in the vein of just gratitude instead of, where's the business? Why don't we have any business? So, yeah.
Yeah, or we sent you 12 priors and we expect to have 12 orders, which
Yep.
would be the extreme of that conversation.
Yeah. Which happens.
Cindy, I know that you have a great team behind you and you all pride yourself on how quick and responsive you are. When you have that conversation with customer about service, what does it sound like?
Sorry, you're gonna have to bear with me. I've got a really bad coughing problem right now.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I've got a tickle in my throat, so I'll start coughing and strangulate. I'll try to do the best I can. Of course, I have to hands down say Denise and Amanda are amazing. I know that from just seeing them, but also as well as the clients. The clients absolutely think that we have the best, hands down, customer service. And with the quick turnaround and with the response time and everything, I mean, I ask people, what can we do better? What can we do different to make your life happier? And they are like, you're like the best. So, but like if we have an instance where we don't have that many from a client, we try to just go ahead and just, kind of point it out to them, let them know, hey, I just want to let you know, how is business? I mean, how is scheduling doing? And most people are very responsive back and letting me know, hey, we had a little rough month last month, and I'm seeing that this month. Of course, people are starting to pick up, and they're letting me know that. So.
Okay. The next category I came up was this acronym TIM, which is a concept I introduced in our newsletter in November. And TIM stands for training, information, and making introductions or making referrals. And this training came up on our list. Darcy mentioned it. And training, I think, can be a very valuable way to help out a customer, provide value to a customer, and can be done in a way that's fairly inexpensive. At least transferring knowledge from one person to another doesn't really take a lot other than a conversation. And you can choose to package that conversation in a particular way, like a lunch and learn. But training is something that I think
Sal,
I
you
think
went
you're
on mute.
muted.
Muted.
okay. Somehow I muted myself. I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, how much of that did you hear or not hear, as the case may be?
Probably 15 seconds, 20 seconds.
Okay, all right. Well, I was talking about TIM. So TIM stands for training, information, and making introductions. And this is a very an important value add that you can give to your customers, because most people want to be good at their jobs. And if you can give them information or training that helps them be better at their jobs, they will appreciate that and they will associate those feelings of gratitude with you and your operation. And so training is a fairly inexpensive way to deliver something of value to a customer. And Natasha, I know that you're doing a either have recently or about to do a lunch and learn. How does that look for you all?
I did a lunch and learn last year, but Sarah did one earlier this year with one of Kiera's customers.
Okay.
mine was virtual and Kiara's was in person though, or the one that I did for Christine's customer was virtual and Sarah was in person though.
Well, Kiara, can you describe how that lunch and learn went? Like, what was the process?
Yes. So it was with one of my top clients, and Sarah is approved for South Carolina as an attorney, and one of my clients is now currently does North Carolina, is passing the bar for South Carolina. So I had mentioned it to them, and they are wanting to gather all the information. So I set up a lunch and learn where I catered lunch to the office, had Sarah there with me. And during that time, she had a printout of basically a PowerPoint with a layout to break it down to them. They also had questions prepared to ask her. And it was about a 45-minute to an hour lunch where we sat down and discussed, where Sarah basically discussed to them some of the questions that they may have and some information that they can gather. So I was able to make a great connection there.
And it's really just chatting while you're eating lunch.
Yep. That she talks all day, engage. It's everyone's participating.
So that's an example of something that you can do in an office that is sharing information, providing training, and allows you to further the relationship.
Can I offer one other thing about the lunch and learns?
Yeah.
I think in addition to providing them with information that helps our customers be better, at their jobs, what the other thing it does is if our customers haven't made a connection with our in-house counsel, or state counsel for that matter, however that is in your office, it allows our customers to see our underwriters as like having being credible, like knowing what they're talking about. I mean, we know that they know what they're doing, but our customers don't necessarily know that. And I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we're all creatures of habit, right? And so our customers may be working with a company because like they have a somewhat of a relationship with their underwriting staff, or they have a relationship with underwriting staff, and they have like somewhat of a relationship with maybe their underwriting counsel or the carrier that title agency works with. But if you replace that with a relationship with your underwriting counsel, where they're like, okay, this person, I know if when I call them, they're going to have an answer. They're going to, they're knowledgeable. They've done this before. I think that, so not only are we giving them value, in terms of the information provided in the lunch and learn, we're also building trust and credibility, and that we may become that office, that underwriter that they call when they have issues. And that just builds the habit of getting in touch with us, sending us orders, asking us questions. So.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah.
Providing information is another thing that we can do to provide value to our customers. And I'm gonna share my screen again. Let me find where I want to go. Can everybody see my my inbox?
Yes.
Okay, this is an email I got. It's just a random email from some agent in Florida. I don't know why I got it, but the reason I liked it and why I saved it is because it's an example of providing information. So in this newsletter or email, whatever you want to call it, this author grabbed some information about the National Association of Realtor and the fact that pending sales were up 2.5%. And if you keep going down, here's another breakdown of the Case-Shiller Index, talking about this index in some of the cities in Florida, which is where this originated. So it's providing information. And I mean, does anybody think that our customers might be interested in market trends and data like that?
Sure, yeah. of
Yeah,
course.
I think so. I mean, we're interested. We want to know where the market's going, where it's not going. And so putting together either putting this in your newsletter or putting together an email and sharing it with your customers, or perhaps there is a particular attorney that you've talked to that you know likes data or was talking with you about where the market is heading. You could put together something like this, throw it at that attorney, and build a relationship, create value with that particular attorney. Here is, I'm going to share my screen again. This is something that Ken sent everybody. It's Fannie Mae forecasts for 2023. And this is Mortgage Bankers Association forecast for 2023. This is another, just two more examples of data that you can share with your customers that they might be interested in. And if they are interested in it, they're going to have some gratitude that you sent it to them. And that is a way to leverage your relationship and further create the relationship. Making introductions is the third part of that acronym, that TIM acronym. And what I want to suggest to you here, and this is not a home run. This is not, you absolutely should be doing this. This is something I think you all have to evaluate on your own, much like all of these tools. But the M for making introductions is expanding the group of people that you're meeting with. We're all meeting with customers, prospects, attorneys and paralegals, maybe title abstractors. That part's no brainer, that we're all doing that. But what I would suggest to you is maybe you could have coffee with a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or a lender and treat them similar to the way you might treat a customer or prospect. Having coffee, buying them a cup of coffee, having lunch with them, that sort of thing. And then when you have a Fidelity Connect event, you can invite that realtor or that mortgage broker to your event. And now instead of having just attorneys and paralegals, you have attorneys and paralegals and real estate agents and builders and mortgage brokers and lenders all at your event. And they're all talking to each other. And perhaps an attorney hits it off with a lender or a real estate agent, and you've helped to make that introduction. And if that relationship blossoms, you might even be able to say, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could send us, or we would like for you to send us the orders for that agent that you met at our event, right? You can at least try to tie the fact that you made that introduction into getting orders from that particular person. So at this point where our numbers are all a little bit down, maybe we spend some time thinking about how we might expand the circle of influence we have and introduce these other players in our industry to kind of our mix. I know from experience that asking a real estate agent to get us an order is very challenging. Even those that are very well-intentioned and want to help us, we still have to go through the attorney who is the gatekeeper, and the attorney may not want to listen to a particular real estate agent or lender or whomever if they're just making a suggestion.
That real estate agent gets really, really good at that when their broker makes them.
Well, yeah, when it's
and that's where that whole thing
yeah.
like falls apart too. A lot now, more so than ever before, is real estate agents, the big ones.
So what I'm saying is we're not to pursue these types of relationships for that reason, because I think that's a very challenging thing to do, but to potentially make an introduction that will create gratitude and then leverage the gratitude, if that makes sense.
I find where that example works really well is when we help paralegals and attorneys find new jobs. Yeah,
and that's gonna be my next slide, Christine. So I'm gonna come back to that, and I'm gonna let you talk about that, Aaron, a second. So we mentioned lunch and learns and newsletters. Again, that's just disseminating information, and the newsletters in particular, I think, can be a very good opportunity to make a connection with your customers, particularly if there's a riddle or something along those lines where they have to send you an email and interact with you, and then you bring them like a little Starbucks card or some treat when they get the riddle right. And then on-demand CLE or CLEs were mentioned earlier, not just the on-demand CLEs, which I think is a very good tool to have in your toolbox. But some of the offices are starting to do live CLEs now. So they're using CLEs and providing education as a marketing opportunity. The on-demand stuff I think is really good and something that you all should be talking about, because as an attorney, and I'm sure the other attorneys on this call can affirm that knowing that I have a place where I can go get an hour if I need one is really, really good stuff. I mean, that's definitely a value add. Then I lumped together some things I called marketing. We mentioned earlier marketing materials, the pens, the highlighters, the notepads, those things are great and obviously something we have to be doing. The treats, providing some little treat when you're out in the field, particularly if it's tied to a holiday or a national day, is obviously very effective and something I think we're all doing. Sales reps, I think, is another tool in our toolbox. I'm kind of using air quotes for that. I think that is something that perhaps you sales reps don't even either you take for granted or you don't acknowledge how important you are to the entire process. And that comes back to that relationships idea, Christine. And I think you were headed in this direction, so I'll let you go ahead and talk about that. How do you provide value through your relationships for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, for like we do like our undercover part-time job is finding people work,
Right.
I have an attorney that I just had lunch with this week, and he just did like contract work for a big firm, sitting the closings during busy, times of the month. And eventually he got hired on as an associate. And I mean, I don't bring it up to him. And I'm like, I keep forgetting that I even introduced him because it's been years, but he's always like, I love my job so much. And it's all because you guys introduced me to this firm, and so, and then, paralegals all the time, and not even like me putting them together necessarily, but if I know a really high quality paralegal is interviewing at a firm, I will go out of my way to email an attorney and say, hey, I know Katie's coming in for an interview. She's a great paralegal. I really hope it works out, or, she'd be a great hire, so that kind of thing. And then, yeah, when you talk about anchoring with somebody and finding commonalities with folks, the longer you're in this business and the more you the more you know somebody, the more you develop your relationship. And I mean, I had coffee today with somebody that I've been working with through this bit for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, and I mean, so I can have conversations with those people more directly than new people. And I mean, it's so valuable to be like, hey, like Susie, like what's going on? Is it me? Is it you? Like, is it the market? What's going on? So it's invaluable to exchange information, for them to be honest, those relationships, building and developing those relationships. Yeah.
Michelle?
I had a customer send me an email from a previous employee who's working for a different title insurance company and being like, this is how much relationships matter, right? Like they were like, hey, this person sent me this email and like just trying to give me a heads up, like they're trying to, move in on your business, on your market share. And, and then to the point about how important we are, these people are just sending emails out trying to market, and there's nobody walking into these offices. And I honestly don't feel threatened at all because they don't have any presence. They're just trying to get business by sending emails out. And that's at the point when I'm like, we are important, building those relationships, getting in, seeing somebody, talking to their face, interacting with them in person. It makes all the difference, I'm not threatened by somebody asking for someone else's business via email because they're not going to get it because the relationship's not there.
Right. Michelle, you were a paralegal for 20 plus years?
30 years.
30 years. And so
30
you,
plus.
so you are uniquely situated to know what challenges a paralegal has and what things they may need help with. And you have a story about 1099s, right? And helping somebody understand SoftPro and 1099. Could you tell us about how you helped out with that particular customer?
Oh, I just recently helped with 1099s in another office. I think, and basically, once this assistant was new, and she did a very good job. But I think it just made her feel more comfortable, and the attorney, having somebody that's actually done the 1099s before in their office. And, I showed them the reports and, told them how to, they could look and fix them and stuff like that. And then ultimately they call SoftPro, and SoftPro walks them through submitting process because I didn't want to, be in, on the line for that. But last year I had a customer who had not put any of the information in for the 1099s as far as the Social Security numbers. I spent probably 2+ days down there helping the assistant, showing her where to put the information and stuff. And this year she has done a great job of doing that. I think they have, when I was in there last week, I think they told me they had maybe 10, that's huge compared to what they had last year, that they needed to get a little more information on. And they wanted me to come back again this year just to set through the process of that. And, I've got a couple of new attorneys that I sit with the assistants and kind of walked them through SoftPro, and that's a huge plus for me.
Yeah, that's training. So we could put it under that category, but it's also because of your relationships and because of your background that you're able to leverage that sort of thing.
Yes.
And then the last grouping I have is digital, and I put title tracks in that, and we've mentioned title tracks. I want to ask at this point, Jennifer, have you had a conversation with any customers about title tracks? And if so, what does that sound like?
I've had some conversations about title tracks it's gone fairly well, just trying to explain to them and teach them all of the access that they can have through our system. So it's gone well. I haven't had a great success of being able to track who exactly is using it once we're doing that, but definitely because a lot of times customers, you'll go in there and they'll say they love and of course at the moment I'm blanking on what Investors, their program is called, where they say it's just so simple, and that's what I use that all the time, and it's so easy. I can do it after hours, I can do it whenever. And so it's a nice response to be able to say we have something similar. It's not the exact same thing, but once you learn it, it can be just as simple. So I think that's been a great tool to use and bring to customers. Again, I haven't had a great success of being able to track if and how people are using it, but yeah, it's been a great response of saying, okay, I'm so glad you like that, but we have something too.
Yeah, that's the way I've used it too. And I know that Title Tracks has a lot more bells and whistles than eFlight, but for me, it was a way to counteract that objection that you might get out in the field about someone who is enamored of investors because they have eFlight. And I'm going to wrap things up here fairly quickly. I do want to go over some of the other things that appeared on this list that I did not come up with. And Jack, you mentioned Sharon service. Have you had an opportunity to talk with a customer about Sharon services? And if so, like, what does that sound like?
Yes. So actually, just recently, yesterday, Kathy and I went to visit an attorney who does almost exclusively commercial transactions. I think he and his firm will cover a residential deal for an existing, corporate client or estate planning client or something like that. But this attorney is essentially exclusively commercial. And in fact, Kathy did a great job of using the CLASP method in terms of the conversations, and was able to, we were able to find out from the attorney that he primarily works with Chicago. And so we talked about that, and we said, look, we're not here to, get in between your relationship with Chicago, but we'd love the opportunity. And one of the things that I shared was, we have escrow services. We have a state escrow counsel. That's all she does every day, is she handles escrows on commercial transactions. And it really piqued his interest. He said, yeah, that's important. And that's something that our firm is moving toward. So that was a very, very, seemed to be a strong selling point with him. And then Kathy was able to leave the flyer that Sharon has created for the services that we provide on the escrow side. So it's more about, bringing it up, learning a little bit about the customer. And this customer was, a prospect. He's a prospect at this point. He, is exclusively commercial. So it was just a natural fit to plug our escrow services and Sharon's expertise. And so, it should provide a platform to follow up with him and actually, introduce him to Sharon. We're waiting to receive his approved attorney application. And then once he submits that, I'm going to follow up with him on some specifics and make some more introductions.
Yeah, very good. That sounds great, Jack. Who mentioned EC purchasing? Was that Cindy? Was that you? No, Cindy?
I'm sorry.
Did you throw out EC purchasing when we were making our list?
No.
Okay. Is it who mentioned EC purchasing, or alternatively, who's had a conversation about EC purchasing they wouldn't mind sharing with us? Anyone?
Well, I offer EC purchasing to a lot of clients, and actually have quite a few people who have joined EC purchasing and are, enjoying the benefits from it.
What does it sound like, Sherry, when you're having that conversation? How do you go about explaining EC purchasing to a customer?
We can save you money by offering it, because we partner with a company called EC Purchasing that has different vendors that work with them to offer discounts to you. And I do tell them it's paying to sign up, because it is. But there's so many different companies in there that you can get discounts from, like Staples for office supplies, Dell computers, FedEx, UPS, different, and go over some of the different companies. And I tell them, take a look at their website and see if you're interested in doing it. And if you are, just sign up and use me as your marketing rep. So I've had a lot of people do that.
And one quick anecdote about EC purchasing that you all are free to use out in the field, and it's a personal one. Last year in January, I went to Orlando for a field hockey tournament for my daughter, and I rented a car. And I haven't rented a car, and I couldn't tell you the last time I rented a car. So I really had no expectations about how much it was going to cost. But for 3 days, for 2 days, it was over $1,000. And I was shocked that it was that much. This year, I used DC Purchasing to rent a vehicle from Enterprise, and it was for 3 days, not 2, 3 days, it was a third of that price. So there are some huge savings that you can offer people that they may not even be thinking about, like renting a car. So use that store if you want, but those savings at EC Purchasing are real.
Mm-hmm. Hotel, motel services. I mean, it's a huge discount. Verizon, I use that a lot because most people who have cell phones are on Verizon, and it's a 19% discount. That's huge. And not
Yeah.
only can the firm save, but the individuals who do real estate in the firm can save. So it's a huge sales tool.
Yeah, to sign up, I think it's just your basic contact information, right? And then name, email and such, and then insert your info.
Well, to sign up for EC Purchasing, yes, but then you have to sign up with each vendor that you use, I believe. Isn't that right? Or that's the way it used to be. I haven't signed up for anything in a long time.
Oh, okay.
When I went on there to get something from Enterprise, and it was, I want to say it was just a couple of extra clicks to get signed up with Enterprise. I don't think it was, I mean, if I figured it out, then it wasn't hard. Well, folks, that's all I have for today. I tried to keep it to an hour. Our next meeting is March 30th, and we're going to talk about signature events. Before we sign off, anybody have anything you want to say or share with the group? Okay, so just to wrap up then, the point of this exercise really is to think about all of the things that you can talk about with a customer, all of those tools in your toolbox, and spend some time thinking about, for each particular conversation you're going to have, is there something in my toolbox that's going to be effective with this customer, that's going to drive business to my operation? And by listing out these things, it allows us to visually see all the things that we have available to us to have conversations and to create relationships and create value for our customers. So I will, I'll send out this recording at some point, and I will share the list that we created today, and so that you have that at your disposal.
Great.
Thanks all.
Yep.
Thank
you.
you.
Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.